right, well, you guys, we have a very different session today, but we are so pumped for it. Joe and I were talking about it last week. We were saying how we have, as you guys know, RocketFuel by United is completely a production-focused mastermind. But at the end of the day, you guys, we all know that it is the operations, systems, people, technology, processes behind us that actually, I should say beside us, more like, is what actually fuels production. And so we're really pumped to have this conversation today with some absolute superstars in our industry. So without further ado, Joe, do you want to say anything before
No, I mean, I think Gisele Bündchen said it right. Tommy cannot throw the ball and catch the ball after a Super Bowl loss, right? Like, Dana said she can't hear. I don't know. I can hear you fine, Amy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
Can
cool.
everybody else hear me?
So, yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
So I think it's just so important to recognize, like, it's impossible to run an A-level organization with B-level players. And no matter if the leader themselves is wonderful, it's impossible to have. First of all, it's impossible to do production at a really high level without operations. Like no matter how great of a salesperson you are.
Yeah.
And so it's impossible to say which wheel on the machine of progress is most important, right? The creation of the opportunity, the capitalization of the opportunity, the salesmanship or the operations. Like it's really hard to say because, I've seen some three-wheel cars on the road and they don't work very well. And so like in our world for Taylor and I, like our operations team is the most important.
Mhm.
And there are times where we go like, definitely not Whitney, but in other areas, and Whitney knows this, we look at things and go like, man, this company or this endeavor is struggling because we just have B-level
Yeah.
operations. And those, and we'll talk about some of that today, and Sarah and Whitney and everyone who's gonna share some of their thoughts are those A-level players.
Yeah.
But you guys, this may be a gut check for you and your organizations. Sunny just hopped on. Because you guys may look at some of your things and go, wow, I've known that so and so was a B-level player. I just didn't realize it's affecting it that much. Like if you look at
Yeah.
the grade scale, an A is 95%, a B is 89%. But if you have a B-level player, it's going to affect your production by more than the 6% difference that education counts it. And so
It's a good
I'm just very
analogy.
passionate about
Yeah,
it.
it's a really good analogy. Well, I'll get us started here by introducing you guys to the person who's going to sort of facilitate and moderate this conversation. Sarah was the very first hire that I personally made when I got into real estate. We've now worked together for 10 years and 3 months. And I couldn't be more lucky to have this young lady in my life and in my business and in our business, I should say. We have certainly gone further faster because we've been together, and she is the true definition of she started off as an operations coordinator. It was the very first title that she had, and then moved into a manager, then moved into a director, and now she's the VP of our entire organization. And it is because of her that we have accomplished what we have. And so I can't think of a better person to facilitate this conversation than Sarah, VP of North Group. So I'll give it over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Amy. And I'm actually really excited for the speakers that we've gathered today. These are the topic of today is POV the SOP. And I know I've worked with real estate agents long enough to know, like, the second you say operations, everyone's eyes glaze over and they go, oh my gosh, we just need someone in the place. And like, we've gathered the best people that are in place right now to give you ideas, to give you the SOPs that are working so that you don't have to start from scratch, because there's so much power in collaboration. And that's what we brought together today. So I've been fangirling over these individuals for so long in the operations space. They all have skill sets that even I don't have. And I'm just so excited to talk to them. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves to explain who they are, what they do, what they're known for, and the company they work for, just so that you have some background. So Whitney, do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. I'm Whitney Gansey. I'm the COO of the Joe Taylor Group here in Las Vegas. I oversee, obviously, all the systems, the teams, and the workflows that keep us all together and moving behind the scenes. So that's from lead gen, transactions, onboarding, hiring, all of that fun stuff. And I'm known for corralling chaos and making it scalable. And so our team can stay focused on selling and our leaders focused on leading.
Awesome. Ellie.
And just for the record, I am chaos. So
she
she's
defined
known for
that really,
corralling
really
me.
well.
Because I come in and I just throw things at her, and she's like, "Okay, cool." Well, and if anyone's read RocketFuel, you know that visionary integrator relationship. So Whitney is 100% integrator in my world.
That's exactly it. And anyone that hasn't read that book, just read it, because that is exactly how Amy and I are set up as well. And I think that leads to long-term success when everyone understands their role. Ellie, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So, hi everyone. My name is Ellie De Posposa, and I lead the operations for the Stone and Co real estate team, and at the same time with Assistio. I manage systems, structure, and support our internal team, and also with the virtual associate we place across real estate business. At Stone and Co real estate team, our operations are actually built on the foundations created by Leslie Stoneham, the one and only. And from her Monday.com boards to her leadership vision, we work closely together with the team to enhance and scale these workflows, and so that we can manage real transactions. So from onboarding to back office systems, everything is tracked, and we refined it to ensure that we're not just working hard, but working smart, consistently, and client focused.
Awesome. We've had the privilege of working with Assistio, which is a VA company, and Ellie helps oversee it. And when it comes to scaling SOPs, Ellie's got it on lock, because she's able to do that for virtually any team, no matter what their structure is, and help them get organized. And our last panelist is both in name and disposition, Sunny Tracy.
Hi, thank y'all for having me. I've been a huge fan of Sarah and have looked to her for mentorship for ages now. So very happy that I can give back a little today. I'm the operations director at Spyglass Realty in Austin, Texas. We have a team of about 145 agents in Austin and Houston that just moved over to Real Broker in January. So I too have been known for corralling chaos. I like to refer to cat herding a lot too, as all of us in real estate kind of experience in lots of different levels. So happy to share.
Awesome. Let's get right into it. I think everyone wants to walk away with something tactical today. So, Sunny, if you'll kick us off, what would you say is one process that you fully automated that saves you time?
Oh gosh, you start me off with
I know.
hard I would just go, there's so many levels to like the automations of our transaction process that we've done, and really listings especially. Having, some good pieces of the listing process outsourced, like signage and lockboxes and logistics. We have a company here in Austin that does that we pay for storage and logistics for all of our signage that goes into our company lead listings, on down to the marketing where, marketing is automatically generated based on an input form that agents fill out when they, in the very beginning of the listing process, that helps set them up for, all those marketing things that they may or may not want down the road, but having them there so that it's not, a last minute ask of your marketing department, was a big needle mover for us in like just turning our marketing department into something that worked ahead for agents rather than reactively. And then also, I think just helping, moving to Real has been quite a bit of a change in the transactions process for us a little bit. Anytime you get a new back-end system to your business, that's certainly the department that I feel like feels it the most. You're learning a new system, a new way of doing things, new compliance, all of that kind of stuff. And I think we did a pretty good job of setting up some process as far as like putting some, assigning different people to different steps of the process that can help not get one person too bogged down. And we're still working through some of that, but learning a lot in the process. So I would just say, this Real's given us an amazing system and reason to help automate some of the things as far as like compliance and things like that. Follow Up Boss also is a huge tool in helping us automate parts of the client communications process. And, as far as action, we have hundreds of actions plans set up, and we've been in Follow Up Boss for almost a decade now. So it's, there's a lot out there that we've created, and we keep kind of reinventing the wheel as things change. But I would say automating, if I could like kind of rank those, automating things in your CRM and for your marketing department can really be, which a lot of times takes operations people to do, because the marketing people aren't really set up for building process and automation. So partnering with those departments that aren't set up to build systems helps them run better and will help you maintain the chaos better as well.
Yeah. And where you chaos and agents, that it's the same term for the rest of this webinar, respectfully. And I think it's so true. There's so many systems that we can kind of take the chaos and funnel it into some automations and structures. Whitney, what does that look like for you?
If I had to pick one, which I mean, processes is such a huge part of this role, because like a lot of what Sunny was talking about. But I'd say onboarding is probably the one that takes the most time off my plate. Onboarding with a team, in my experience anyway, can be very nuanced. And so remembering all of the things and making sure that each agent's being treated the same way, getting the same information, that no steps are being missed, because that first initial, phase of an agent sets the tone for how they interact with the team moving forward. So that has been probably the biggest time saver. I'm no longer doing it one-on-one. I batch them as often as I can. It starts from an agent committing to join the team. And then I have a fully automated system from division, from joining Real, from integrating to all of our systems and platforms and knowledge. Because we offer so much for our team, that's really when the nuanced items come in, right? And we want to make sure that we're giving them a really great experience. So onboarding and batching out has been really great. I've automated the whole thing, which in turn saves me a lot of time. At this point, I only spend an hour with each batch of agents, and I go through highlights. Basically, they have all the things that they need through previous communication, and I'm just saying, let's pay attention to these items. Like, this is where you're going to want to star these ones, because you're going to be referring back to them often, or giving them a little bit of context around the system itself. So it's really drastically cut down on my time, and it's improved our agent onboarding.
What tools are you primarily using, Whitney? Like, or what platform, I should say?
So a lot of it is through Monday.com. I have a workflow built out in there, but that's more like internal for me. Our outward facing automation to the agent is through our CRM Brivity. And then, which I can get in a little bit more later, but we have a team toolkit, which is through Google Sites, which has been a real game changer for us. So those three are, and then I have those are the more platform automated sections. And then I have a detailed checklist item that an agent goes through for the first week that they join the team. So I know that I'm not missing them putting, recreating their voicemail to the team and to the brokerage. And it's all of those little things that could be slipped through the cracks that are no longer slipped through the cracks, because they know what they got to do.
Well, and for anyone that's saying like, man, like, let me just sell more houses, why are we talking about this? Anytime something has to be done more than once, you have to have an automated process for it. And so guys like me will just run really fast and try to set everything on fire. But the problem is, I'm now 45, I've been doing this a long time. And so you start to get burnt out. And like early in my career, I didn't have any processes or any systems in place. And it was just like, let me just sell a bunch of houses as fast as I can. Where now to run an actual business, you have to have process and automation. And the good news is I don't have to create it. And this is where that relationship between the visionary and the integrator becomes so important, is if you are a producer, you might hate operations, because you know who hates operations? Me. Like, I just love to create, and I'm all passion. Sometimes passion and process are opposing principles. And so you have to have that. And so anytime we have to do something, so the reason she talks about onboarding is because we're constantly trying to onboard talented individuals. And so if every time we onboard somebody, Whitney has to go step by step through this long process and there's no automation tied to it, then it creates a bottleneck to where our onboarding becomes limited, because I can create as many conversations as I want. But if the actual process of them coming on board is laborious, then obviously we can only onboard so much. And that, Sarah, that applies to listings, that applies to buyer sides, that applies to, the creation of escrows and lending processes and whatever it is. It's like, if every time you try to grow your business, it requires a ton of labor, without processes and automation, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just add too, with automations is really helpful and makes us so efficient, but there is a fine line between automating too much and maintaining a personal feel for agents. Agents don't want to, in this case, join a team that they have no interaction with people, right? With the people that's on their team. So there is a fine balance, but to Joe's point, it's a matter of scalability. You can't scale without having really great automations in place.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that you can put structures in place and then make sure that you have you're creating the SOP for staff or for you to follow. And it applies whether you're building a team or you're a solo agent. Once you start to scale, you will need someone in the operations seat, whether that's staff, like an in-house staff or assistants or a virtual assistant, someone that is going to take the pieces off your business so that you can focus on your clients, whatever next iteration of your career that is. And so, Ellie, that's kind of what you do. Will you speak a little bit to the onboarding structure and how you get agents set up for success?
Yeah, so well, in terms of our team, like it's a combination of what Whitney and Sunny have provided to us. So we've actually streamlined our email communication using follow-up posts. We set up a comprehensive library of templates for every stages of real estate transactions. So this eliminates actually the need of retyping repetitive messages like offer updates, showing confirmations, and closing instructions. That said, we're intentional about not going fully automated as well in terms of our email communications, because we believe in balancing efficiency with personalization. So while the core message is ready to go, we still need to take time to customize each email with context specific to that details or to our clients as well. So like the client's tone, timeline, and preference. So once prepped, so we can just schedule these emails and follow-up posts ahead of time, like saving hours of each week while still delivering a personal client experience to them.
Yeah, and I would argue, and it depends on your business goal, but again, whether you're a solo agent or building a team, have a small team, I think one of the first things that you can create an SOP or automation for is the transaction process, the client process, because that's your ROI. That's where we make our money, it's our clients. And I know on our team, we probably have over 200 email templates. Why? Because then we can control the way emails are communicated. And as we scale, the communication is standardized. And we're also not having to remember all the micro details. So we're spending time adding the customization, like the note about their cat or something specific to the client, but we're not remembering to add the 3 other questions that we know every single seller has, or or if you're sending it different paperwork to all the nuances and details. So if you're going to take anything away from today, work on your transaction process, work on the email communication, the communication you have with your clients. The best advice I can give you is make sure that whoever your hire is or your operations person is, loop them into every single piece of communication you had. That's how I started to understand how Amy communicated with our clients, how we can scale it for the rest of our team, and then you can build from there. Once you have the baseline, you can keep building. When it comes to the transaction process and start to finish, Whitney, why don't you give us some insight to the systems you use or your team uses for managing transactions?
Yeah, but to your point, Sarah, that is the ROI. So it is one of the first systems that we've built out, and we've done a couple different reiterations. You know, we're fans of always improving, and so it is something that I would say is pretty much we did a good job this last round, and so it's pretty well dialed in. But it's always subject to tweak and to change, and so we have a full-time transaction manager for our team. She handles all of our deals, obviously, for similar reasons I'm sure your teams do. We want the agents to focus on their business. But we want to make sure, so quality matters a ton, because that's your referrals, that's your repeat business, all that kind of thing. And so when we built out our system, we probably have about 200 email templates as well. But we have a checklist that our transaction coordinator functions off 100% of the time. So it really doesn't leave too much that needs to be ad hoc, unless it's transaction specific, which those do happen, obviously. But Brivity is where all of that is housed. So our CRM, Brivity, we use like 90% capacity. We're using transaction out of there, so they link to our clients and our database and lead flow and all that. And we have templates, what we call an auto plan for each different type of client, for each different type of stage that they're in, whether they are just listed, they just went into contract, post closing, because we have very important communication that goes out after they've closed. We want to stay top of mind even after we've dealt with them. And so it's very vital that our transaction manager manages like 40 to 50 transactions a month. And so that's heavy volume. And that's really the opportunity to maintain the quality and scale at the same time, because we're not having to, it gives us more bandwidth with her before we have to make another hire. And so it's a checklist based off of, okay, well, is this a cash deal or a finance deal? If one is marked than the other one, then certain communication automatically goes out to a client, so that it updates the auto plan, which is even better to fit that type of transaction. And so then it's just, you don't even have to think about anything. If you're doing it right, if you're working the system that you've spent so much time and love creating, then it's self-sufficient. It doesn't matter if my TC is out sick or on vacation. I know where to pick up. I have somebody who could fill right in for her. And nobody, especially the agents, right? We want to protect the agents. They get that paycheck, and they trust us to do our jobs well. So they don't want that stress of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Where are we at? So everything's very transparent in our systems, even to the point where our clients can log into their portal and see, hey, well, what's been done? What hasn't been done? Where are we at? And obviously we don't give them visibility on all of the micro details, but definitely the big core pieces and the milestones for sure. And so Brivity is what we really use for that, but we're very organized in our handoff to our transaction coordinators anyway, like from the very beginning. So I mentioned Monday is one of our core tools. And so we have forms, which is, you can do Google Forms, you can do, there's so many different options these days, but we use a Monday form, and in our toolkit, very easy to find for our agents. They just click on a link, they fill out this very quick form, which gives all the information that we need to know to write the offers, to write the listing agreement. And it's all documented, all clean. They get a copy of what they submitted. So if we ever need to refer back, they have it. And it's very organized for the TC to then be efficient and do the next steps when they get new transactions.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think the common thing that everyone said is there's some sort of intake process or form across the board. And I'm a strong believer if there's any relay of information between parties, an agent and their assistant, agent and a client and you, if it can be made a form, you should absolutely make a form. And there's different forms of different purposes. So you use Monday. We have a program called Open to Close, which is similar to Brivity, but it's just transaction processing. And they have intake forms in that help us offset automations in our transactions. And then form software, there's some really great ones out there. We like type forms for client-facing stuff. Cognito Forms is a really great one where you can have dynamic fields based off how they answer. You get super nerdy on that. You mentioned Monday. Ellie, you also mentioned Monday. What are you using Monday.com for?
Oh, that was actually our before, like when we started, Leslie and I started to work together, like she has Monday.board that we initially changed into a different platform. So we recently revamped how to use the Slack as well. So because before we used Monday.com, and then also we have Trello task board so that we have the transaction checklist in place. But then we just found out that Slack is very, like it's getting stronger right now, and we can do a lot of things in Slack itself. So initially it was been used primarily just for internal chat and file sharing, but now we turned Slack into a full operational command center. So each listing or deal that we have has its own thread containing the summary of the listing or like the offer details, links to different platforms, to our posts, to Google Drive, or to follow up boss contact of that particular client that is related to that transactions. And then also our marketing assets is there, like the showing updates and all the checklists, like the intake sheet. It's something that we also did in the Slack, if you've heard already of the tally form, like it's something that you can integrate in Slack as well. So we have like a seller intake sheet and a buyer intake sheet so that it's going to be easier for us to input the details in the forms that we will be sending out for the clients. So aside from that, we're still currently integrating our Trello task boards directly into Slack because as mentioned earlier, like we're using Trello before, but then like we just figured out that everything can be in just one place so that agents can no longer be accessing different platforms from time. So like all the checklists that we have right now can be assigned as well to different people who are actually or who needs to do that particular task. And then we can be able to track it and also update it without leaving the platform. So this change has significantly improved the visibility, like reduced back and forth of things, and like it tightened the coordination across the team as well.
Yeah. Anything when you can consolidate resources into one platform, it makes everyone's lives easier, especially with the integrations that they have now. I will live and die on the Slack mountain. If those of you on this call are not using Slack or some sort of communication platform, end this call and go sign up for it now, or at least wait till 1 p.m. and then go sign Eastern time and then go sign up for
So one thing, Sarah, I think too is important to point out. It's just like exercise. If someone were to say like, man, is it better to do CrossFit or Zumba or cycling or Pilates? It's like, it's ultimately better to do whichever one you're going to do on a consistent basis to help you be more healthy. And so it's like we've shared a lot of like the systems that people are using. And the reality is like, whatever system you're going to use, hopefully has some automation so you don't always have to do everything manually. To tie together a hyper salesperson with a hyper operations person. Typically, I would say let the ops person choose the tech, so long as a salesperson you're willing to do your part, because like the facilitation of a transaction, it's like it can't be so geeked out that like the salesperson can't just put the info in there, but it also has to have the automation that the ops person needs. So that's where it's like finding that blend of the technology that as an operations manager, somebody needs to be able to adequately facilitate the business, but also making it seamless enough that the salesperson's willing to take the couple of steps. Because, Sarah, I'm sure or Sunny, you've seen this with your team. It's like if you make it too laborious on the front end, then your salespeople who are out there grinding are just going to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's too much work. So it's like you got to find that happy median.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things to remember is to expose your operations team to the other side of the business to your best of your ability. I think so often I see individuals with assistants or even teams set up where their operations are on their own ship. They don't attend the team meetings. They don't really understand what goes on the client side of the deal. They also don't really understand the full transaction process. And until they do that, they're not going to be able to build systems that help you out. So make every effort to remove the thread between those, because you're going to be greater for it. Yes, it will feel slower to have them attend a meeting that is not necessarily driving their business forward, but it's the greater sum. Sunny, what are some of the systems that you use or your team uses the brokerage uses on a daily basis? You are muted. Sorry, but you look great.
Oh, sorry. Okay. A lot we already talked about, obviously Follow Up Boss, and we're using Asana some for some things, especially in our marketing department is leaning into that a lot. My transactions team uses Folio for a lot of their like kind of internal stuff. One thing that I wanted to kind of mention and introduce that is kind of new to the scene that is really changing the way that we are able to look and analyze data and forecasts and things like that is a new reporting tool called Agent Dashboards. And it works with lots of different transaction tools in CRM, open to close, Reason, SkySlope. You can integrate it really with, and I think they're working on basically being able to I think their API is working with almost anything at this point. But it's always been crazy to me that these transaction tools, none of them really come with that good of reporting. Before we moved over to Reason, we had Brokerment. Brokerment was a very powerful transaction tool and really crappy at reporting. And we were like, how is the place where all the data lives not able to give you good reporting? And so Agent Dashboards is over the last 30 days, and I know we still have a ways to go, but been like crazy eye-opening for us. It's a new tool, so you can check it out there. It's built by a team leader who is good at tech. So I always like working with technology that's built by real estate people, because I feel like it's a better fit in our industry. So it's been able to show us really great like trajectory and reporting on not only team members, but transactions and listings. And I mean, it'll pull all your data and really kind of do anything you want with it. So I think that is, a big missing piece to a lot of people's operation is that they've got their data in good places and they've got checklists going on. But how do you tell what's happening to your business in the next 6 months? How do you tell what is coming in money-wise over the next 30, 60 days? That's important to us as a business. How do you tell what, even like measuring people and performance and stuff like that? So that tool.
Sunny, what's the name of it again?
Agent Dashboards.
Is that the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like Sisu, right?
It's like Sisu. I demoed Sisu several times and we've never had it in our business, but I'm like loving Agent Dashboards. I think it's just agentdashboards.com, and David Keener built it, who has a huge team of agents kind of all over the country. So it's built, I would say it's a tool, especially if you have a decent sized team and are looking to grow a team. It'd be a great tool to get in place now that could help you project and scale.
I really like what Vincent said in the chat, and I just want to emphasize it. And I know Sarah touched on the beginning, but like, even if it's just you as a high producing agent right now, or you like at the point where you're like getting ready to make your first hire, or maybe you're operating as a small team, like getting these processes and these systems in place now before you actually want to grow and scale is so critical. I was going to share the story. Is when we started using Slack, it was just Sarah and I. Like, she made me use Slack, and we set our whole organization up as if we were what we are today, 25 people, when it was just the two of us. But man, oh man, was it ever good to get all of that in order? That's just one small example. But to streamline our communication and to get that in order before we actually started to grow.
Yeah, anything that, like you said, like you can't automate a bad process. So if there are things that aren't working, fix it. And for us, Slack resolved the initial thing was it resolved like 15 emails about the same thing in 15 different inboxes. It consolidated everything into one central place. So work on your transactions, and then step 2 is work on consolidating where data comes in. You can do that through intake forms, through Slack, a combination of. Whitney, what do you, I know Sunny's using agent dashboards. What are you guys using to track metrics and reporting?
We use Brevity. Like I said, we've come from a place where we've had like 10 platforms. And as great as that can be, because you might have every piece outlined, it becomes really hard to, and I'm not familiar with agent dashboards. It sounds really awesome, Sunny. So I'll look into that. But right now we use Brevity because we want one central hub. We have our agents, like it's a non-negotiable for our agents. If it's not in Brevity, it didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, we hold them accountable. We're able to have meaningful conversations with them. And so I like that. I like, to your point, Sarah, a centralized hub of information than having 4 different platforms to do it. And it's not perfect. Like Sunny said, it's like some of these platforms that hold all of the data should be the best at the reporting aspect, and it's just not the case. So it's not perfect, but we definitely utilize it as much as possible. We run our sales meetings off of it. It's our scorecarding for our team leaders. So we do a lot with the data that we have in there. And it kind of just helps everything flow together too, because it's one system. You know, this piece of information can then be tracked across 3 other pieces of information that correlate with it. You know what I mean?
Sunny, so are you seeing, does agent dashboards have a IDX connection or what's the right word I'm thinking of?
It has an API connection.
API to Follow Up Boss. This was when we got away from Sisu, was when we went to Brevity. Brevity and Sisu didn't talk. And so it's like, it's so easy to say to a team leader, well, just make your agents do it. And it's like, well, that's really cute, right? Like that sounds so awesome. But it's like, we're always trying to blend the reporting with the reporting and tracking in an automated way so that we let salespeople be salespeople and not make them become, data input people. And it's like, man, that's really hard.
And I will say this about, like, I will double down on what Whitney and Sarah have said about, like, it's easy for guys like Joe and my visionary that I work with, Ryan, to throw tools at us all day, to operations people all day long. Ryan's always like, oh, I was at a conference and there's this awesome tool, go get it. And I signed up for this because I met this guy. And I'm always like, whoa, like I have a pretty thick screening process for letting new technology to our agents at the very least. I'm willing, my kind of like compromise there is I'm like, cool, sign up for it. Let me try it. Let me work with it. Let our leadership team fool around with it for a little while, because you have to be I have learned that you have to be very careful, especially if you have a team of agents that you've either had for a long time or very used to the way of doing things. I mean, piling tools on top of tools just ends up creating more work and mess than a lot of times it needs to be. And I have learned that the hard way. We did that for years. And it's taken a lot to really scale back and like throw stuff out and be like, no, we don't need that. That's doing the same thing as this. And I mean, we have a tool that we're thinking about ditching now that like my sales director and my visionary love. And I literally made like a breakup, like do's and like why and why not list on a whiteboard the other day. And I was like, what do we like about this? What could we live without? Like here, and sometimes it just takes that you get really attached to tools that you've either used for a long time or are popular or whatever. And so it takes kind of like really looking at the black and white of that. But yes, agent dashboard seems to be kind of like it's talking to Reason and Follow Up Boss and getting all of our to our transaction data and the sales lead data in at the same time, which was kind of always the missing piece for us.
Sunny, can I ask a question on that? So does it just take information from these platforms and create reporting of it? Or are your agents having to do multiple things in different places?
Our agents don't see it at all for now.
Oh,
it's for us.
okay.
It's a leader tool. Oh, I mean, and if you were an indie agent, that was a super high producer, I could see it being useful. It wouldn't be, you'd have to have a whole lot of production or a team of people for it to be a useful tool, but it sounds like these are all people on this call are probably people that are headed that direction or have that kind of mindset. So yeah, that's where we've seen it most powerful, is being able to, evaluate performance of people and also evaluate financial performance with all the transaction data.
Well, and I think that that's magic. That's the magic of technology in the world we're entering into is, man, if you can just scrape what your agents are actually doing and get an accurate report and broadcasting what that's going to do for your team financially, transaction wise, whatever, that's amazing. Because if you go to a bunch of agents and say, hey, we need you to put in the number of conversations you're having, the number of appointments you're setting, the number of appointments you're meeting, the number of deals going into escrow, you can have sprints in which there'll be some effectiveness there. But I'm much more enamored with like, just show me what's actually happening. Let's just declutter the fake. And like, if we could scrape the data of what agents are actually doing and then get a report on the back end of saying like, here's what's happening. I would imagine, Sonny, you guys have seen the lead and lag measures of going like, wow, this agent's really putting in work. And then 90 days later, without them even knowing, they're putting in the work, you see the results, and it's like it's undefeated that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like so often sales professionals just work off of instinct, where it's like, I know when we're building a team, especially, it can feel like so and so hasn't done a deal in a month. They're not doing anything, like the world's falling apart. When you take like a high level zoom out, you can go, oh well, they're actually well above benchmarks. They're just at the cottage this summer because they've worked so hard. And you don't get that information unless you look at the facts and the numbers. So some sort of reporting structure is so crucial. We actually use Sisu, and this isn't a knock on Sisu. Sisu is an amazing platform. It was too much for us. It was just like there were so many of the reports we didn't use. So we did the same thing. We did the pros cons breakup list, and we went back to a Google Sheet. So I'm just saying this, it like, I'm pro software for anything, but sometimes you don't have to complicate it. With Google Sheets, you can build out amazing platforms and dashboards, and you can use Google's Looker Studio to create visuals if you're more of a visual person. And all we do is we track our own sales data. Of course, it's a little more manual, so I'm really attracted to this platform. But sometimes if it's not out there, just build it yourself too, and simplify it. You don't need a high tech stack. Ellie, what would you say if agents, when they come on to Assistio, what are some of the platforms you set them up with right away that you think are crucial to running any real estate business?
Yeah. So for our clients, like we usually set up their Slack workspace. So all the templates, all the lists that we have built into our system are also being built out to the client system so that they can be able to use it and like be able to have their VAs work on it. The next one is the follow-up boss. So all the email templates that we have, like we're sharing it to the clients so that they can be able to share it to see if there's any edit that they wanted to make, or like if there are any other templates that they already have in place and they want to configure whatever it is that we have and something that we can merge together. So aside from that one is the Google Workspace. So especially their Google Drive, we wanted to make sure, because not all agents are actually keeping their files in Google Drive. Some agents are just wanted to have their the files in their email or like on their brokerage. But then the thing here, what Leslie taught me, is that we need to have a space where all our paperworks are actually saved, just in case that we need to, that we still get access to, even if we change or like move to another brokerage to another. At least we have something for our own. And then another one is before the Trello is part of our system that we are setting up. But right now, like everything, we have synced that one to Slack because of the new integrations and features that Slack has. So we just wanted to simplify everything. And so we just removed Trello and put all the transaction checklists in Slack, and then have that one to be able to place collaborators for each task and know the status of each task as well. And then another thing is that the standard operating procedure. So even if the client doesn't have a standard operating procedure on set, like it's fine, because we have our own SOPs that we are sharing to our clients, and that their task is to double check the current SOP that we're actually provided to them and see if that will work on their current workflow. They can edit it the way they wanted it to be. And then from that standard operating procedure, because we actually take the SOPs as our Bible for all our clients. And then we do have a separate task checklist, which is we considered as our map as well, so that we know where we at right now or what we need to do for a specific transaction as well. So that when they updated the SOP that we have provided, then that's the time that we will be integrating that one to their Slack, so that they know each channel for that specific property will have its own tab for the checklist, so that they know specifically what are the tasks that was been done on this transactions and what are the tasks that needs to be done as well.
That's awesome. And I think when it comes to creating SOPs, progress over perfection is what I can remind everyone. I think, especially like I can speak to Amy. She's a perfectionist. We all know that she is. She is very operationally minded. And when it comes to like, if we were to start day one and go, okay, walk me through your listing process, it would be almost overwhelming because there's so many nuances. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, where you're like, I know exactly how I do it. I don't know how to scale it. Just first, simplify the process, and then you can build upon it. So the way we operate on our team is that if someone asks a question, we build it into our process so it never has to be asked again. So for instance, if we like probably years ago at some point we forgot to pick up a lockbox or something, we never would, but you know, something like that. Then the next time we just build it into the checklist. So if you can start with simple checklists, tell yourself you can always build upon it. 2, use the power of AI. You can make a mess of everything that you do and plug it into ChatGPT, and it will tell you exactly how to build your process. So maybe you don't have a Whitney on your team, but then you can start there, then hire someone that at least has a roadmap to do. Sunny, what does your staff structure look like? Who are your key players in place?
So we have a leadership team that's made up of Ryan, our CEO, and our visionary. We function on EOS also as well, which I cannot say how much that has been really the structure of us, helping us build the team that I'm about to tell you about, and everything else that we do as far as issue solving and all that kinds of stuff. It's been a total game changer for us. So Ryan's our CEO, I'm the director of operations, and then our sales director, Johnny. The 3 of us kind of take the lead in our leadership team and our partners in the company. We have a director of marketing that handles all things marketing. We now have a business development director that's helping us with recruiting and, agent kind of concierge with agents that are already here and helping them build and grow and things like that. We have a full-time now relocation director. When we joined leading real estate companies of the world about 1.5 years ago, we realized the value in that. So that has been, we have 145 people. So that we got to a point where there was enough in and out, broker to broker and third party, that has become a really powerful tool for our agents. And really, having somebody dedicated that can kind of white glove that was important. We also have kind of the head of our transaction teams, which I call our agent success coordinator. That's April, and she is doing, she's heading up our transactions team. She is assisted by several VAs and helps connect kind of that accounting and transaction piece that's so important to our business, which especially as you start to grow, that's hard to piece together. We outsource bookkeeping. We outsource CFO work, really kind of like financial advising and all that kind of stuff. So that's really the basis of our team. We also have another kind of team lead and trainer that works with our Zillow Flex team to help kind of hone in the training there. And then we have a full-time ISA.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's a long list. And I think the reason I asked you that question was because I wanted to get to the point that as you scale, putting the right people in the right seats is so important, and don't be afraid to create roles for needs. I think so oftentimes, like, you can kind of pressurize the initial hire to the point where everything falls apart. So be really tactful about the EOS system is a great place to start. Like, start to look at what responsibilities there are in your company and who you can place in those roles.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important, Sarah, too, to think like the vast majority of us that are on this call want to make the money that our friends that are doctors and lawyers make. And I'll tell you, I've got friends that run some of the most successful personal injury attorney firms in Las Vegas, orthodontic. My son literally right now is at my buddy's orthodontics practice. He owns 7 offices. And every office has an office manager, and every office has 10 orthodontics assistants that are putting bands on kids' teeth. And my buddies that run law firms have case managers and, you know, junior associates and all that stuff. And then sometimes we're spoiled as real estate agents. We're like, let me just close deals, whatever, we'll figure it out. And it's like, well, no, like you have to systematize it. So I love that as Sunny ran through their org chart, it's because they're actually running an organization. And that's the maturation process for each of us that are running real estate companies. It's like, well, good job. You know how to sell Jim and Sandy's home and help them buy a bigger home. That's cool. Now you've created a single point transaction that has allowed you to pay your mortgage for a couple of months. How do you do that again? And then how do you do it again? And then how do you help other people to do it? And in the process of helping other people to do it, how do you create positions where like all of this becomes automated and gets put on to like to use the phrase that we use for this call, like rocket fuel. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, let's go from riding a horse to riding a bike to riding a car to flying in an airplane to like getting on a rocket. And so I just think as we go through some of this, it could be monotonous, but it's so important. If we want to make doctor money, we have to run doctor business. If we want to make lawyer money, we have to run lawyer business, or else we're just always going to be chasing our transactional tail.
And I'll say one more thing about EOS. Ryan and I did not put the right people in the right seats or make the right seats for the right people for years. I've been with Spyglass for 13 years. I told him the other day, I was like, we could literally write a screenplay with all the characters that we hired the first like 5-6 years we were working together. Had I read Traction and RocketFuel that long ago, I mean, even just y'all, as simple as reading the books can be really powerful in your business. They have integrators and all kinds of consulting that you can, and there's all kinds of people out there that help you implement that kind of stuff if you get really into it and work on it. But just start with reading those couple of books. Like I said, I don't think they were out that long ago, but that would have saved us probably a little bit of headache.
I really want Whitney to answer Anthony's question. He's asking, what's one metric that you track that is the most valuable in relation to agent sales?
I saw that question, and it's a great question, Anthony. I don't think it's surprising, actually. I think that real estate is a very simple math equation. And so when you're talking about sales success, it's pretty evident in the metrics, which is why reporting is so important. So if you have a reporting method, then you're already well on your way. But it's so I call our team leader a triage nurse because we track the calls, we track the conversations, the calls, the texts, the appointments, the contracts, and all of that. And so if we have that data, then we're seeing where each agent is struggling, where they're succeeding, and then we have a game plan. We can go to that agent, sit down with them, and have a success-based conversation on, let's work on this to get you here. And then one thing I would say too, depending on the size of your team or how it's structured, I see a big difference that does correlate with sales success on the people who show up. Just the simple fact of like coming into the office, whether it's required or not required, those agents naturally want it more. And you see that in just their day-to-day production, how they're managing their business and so forth. But I don't think it's very surprising. I think you just need to pay attention to the data and you need to track the data. More importantly,
if you listen to Brian Charlesworth from CSU, he says the North Star is appointments met, and then you kind of base it off of that. Like, you know, we realize that 20% of all appointments met are going to turn into a transaction. If you're having a higher success rate than that does not mean you're a great salesperson. It means you're not meeting enough people. If you're having lower than success rate than that, it means you're meeting too many people that aren't ready. So it's like, once you understand the numbers, to Whitney's point, triage becomes very important. Half of all your appointments that you set shouldn't happen. So if magically it's like, wow, 90% of the appointments I set happen, that doesn't mean you're a great appointment setter. It means you're actually bad at it. You need to set more appointments. Like, you don't want to bat 90%. And so it's like we geek out on all of this, but our North Star, as Whitney said, it's not overly surprising. It's how many people are you meeting face to face? And then, it's very easy from there to go, well, Sunny is on the phone all day, every day. She's having 30 conversations a day. Every conversation you have, you should have a 5% likelihood that you're going to set an appointment. So over the course of a week, if she has 150 conversations and she doesn't set 7 or 8 appointments, then she's just saying bad things, or she's calling bad lists, right? And so it's like the numbers become really, really important to track, because once we look at what I do like about, and we need to look at, Whitney, we need to look at this, what Dave put together, but the CISU board, or even our Brivity's not great at it, but when you look at these things, it's like, it takes you 2 seconds when you see somebody's dials, conversations, appointments set, appointments met, and contract. If you look at that metric over a period of time, it'll take a good leader 3 seconds when looking that to go like, oh yeah, cool, you're just not having enough conversations, or oh yeah, you're not meeting enough people face to face, or you're setting too many appointments and none of them are happening, or you're setting fake appointments, or whatever it is. Sorry to geek out on that, but it is really important.
No, and I think like one thing that really helped us was, rather than prescribing numbers to everyone, like rather than saying you have to have 6 appointments a week, whatever it is, what we do is we business plan once a quarter and help them understand what their numbers should be, so it's coming from them. And like that was like such a powerful tool, because then everyone has their own personal goals. We teach them how to do that math, and then it's not us feeling like we're like with a whip. We can say,
Well,
you set this goal.
Yeah, and you just want to remove mathematical impossibilities. Like if you went to SpaceX and said, hey, how fast does your rocket go? And they're like, dude, we got this thing up to 90 miles an hour. You'd be like, okay, cool, but you're never going to leave the atmosphere at that pace, right? Like, and so if you're like, hey, Whitney, how many deals do you want to close this year? And she's like, I want to close 20. And I'm like, awesome. How many appointments are you having a month? And she's like, 1. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, just so we're on the same page, that's a mathematical impossibility. And so it's like, everyone needs to pick their pace. They need to pick their success rate. But Sunny has to go to people and go, hey, Bob, like, just so you know, you're not having enough appointments to reach your transactional goal. If you meet 2 people a month, that's 24 people a year. If your goal is to close 20 deals, you would have to have a 90% success rate with every person you meet face to face, which is pretty close to a mathematical impossibility.
And that, just to expand upon that a little bit more, it turns that conversation with the agent, kind of what you were saying, Sarah, is it doesn't feel so much to them as if like the team is greedy because they're not hitting our metrics and our numbers, and they're not making us money or whatever. It turns into, you have this, you set this goal for this reason, and let's realign with it, and let's tweak it if we need to, if we realize that we can't hit what Joe was saying, all of the leading measures to getting you your results. But it became that those conversations were almost easier to have, and they were more empowering. And I don't like the term of accountability for the most part, but it then changes that whole concept in the agent's mind too. Yeah. So.
In the interest of time, I want to get some feedback from you guys. Drop a 1 in the chat if you found this valuable and you would be interested in us having more operational process systems conversations, if that would be something that you would be open to. Okay, so there's some good feedback there. Ladies, thank you. You're all superstars, and just like blown away by the brains and the beauty of this call, that's for sure. Joe, we have 2 holidays coming up, so we have a break. Just so you guys know, there will be no RocketFuel for the next 2 Mondays. It is the Victoria Day long weekend in Canada, followed by the Memorial Day long weekend in the US. But that being said, we have a really awesome announcement that we will be having the week that we're back, the first week in June, and we have some really cool stuff lined up for that month. So excited to see you all again in a couple weeks. Whitney, Sunny, Ellie, and Sarah, thank you so much. We appreciate you and all that you do, and we would love to have you guys back again sometime. All right, guys, have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.